Welcome to Life Happens, where Texans come to protect their legacy and prepare for the second half of life. Join your host, Attorney Kim Hegwood with Hegwood Law Group, and our weekly guest as we navigate the challenges that emerge as life happens. Now here's your host, Kim Hegwood.
Good morning, and today we have a special guest in Melissa Smith. And so, Melissa, why don't you tell our listeners what you do?
I am the founder and executive director of Caregiver Wellness Retreat, and our nonprofit runs retreats for caregivers of Alzheimer's and other dementias with the sole purpose of helping the caregivers themselves create their own self-care plan, return to kind of who they were before they became and wore the hat caregiver. It is not specifically about dementia education. It really just focuses on the caregiver themselves so that they can have, really our topic today, more resiliency.
Yeah, caregiver health is hugely important to me. My grandfather did not take care of himself, taking care of my grandmother. So I'm all about telling caregivers, you got to take care of yourself. You've got to get sleep. You've got to get respite and things like that. And so tell me a little bit about how you do the retreats. And so what does that look like for a caregiver?
Yeah, well, when we have them in person, they're very different from what we offer online. In person, it will be, whether we have it in person or not in January, it'll either be live online or it'll be in person, but it'll be our sixth annual retreat in Houston in January. And so I'm very excited about that. Typically it's in Fulshire, Texas, which is just outside of Houston, a beautiful property full of elm trees, and people really kind of get away and get out into nature. Online, it's a little different. We have one online right now, which is on demand. So if someone were to type in caregiverwellnessretreat.com, there would be two options that would come up for them. The one that they could do right now, which is 10 minutes a day, emailed to their inbox, really short, concise sessions that run the gambit from music therapy to nutrition to horticultural therapy to just really short segments that kind of bring them into the present moment. And then another one that we'll have live from Santa Fe on October 2nd and 3rd. So, and it's really heavy in the arts, actually. So what it will look like is 2 half days, and it'll be mindfully looking at a piece of artwork that's here in Santa Fe, mindful drawing with someone who does drawing classes with the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum, mindful poetry with a really well-known poet here in Santa Fe. And then also we'll have self-care plans with the Memory Care Alliance, which is based here in Santa Fe. And then we have some national speakers like Hilarity for Charity and Home Instead's national office. We'll be talking about respite care. So I guess in short, what does that look like? Again, everything we do comes back to the care of the caregiver. And our sole focus and aim is for the caregiver to be able to perhaps recognize what they were passionate about, recognize what helps them tap into a sense of calm and ease, and to know that it's accessible at all times. In other words, you don't have to go outside of your home or go do a special class, or you just really need to pause for a moment and take a moment to do something that helps you find that joy again. And that is going to help you regulate stress and anxiety. And those are the things that we're really excited about. And of course, the big common thread is it's a group of caregivers. You're online with a community of people that have gone through and is currently going through what you're going through. So there's a sense of understanding and empathy of what the caregiver struggles are.
Yeah, very much so. And most of them have lots of struggles. And so let's talk a little bit about that. So if they're struggling with finances, how do y'all help with that?
That's a really great question. I think it's interesting to pinpoint just finances, because if you kind of step back from that, the concept of anxiety or even just struggle is universal. So we were chatting beforehand, whether you're an elder or whether you're a kindergartner, you're talking about your grandchildren, or there isn't anyone that is unaffected by change, right? And there's a lot of emotions that come up with the idea of change. And so that's what we want to look at. And how do we create self-regulation skills that are geared toward change and combating change? And whether it's how to cope with finances or change in finances, or how do we map out a plan? And I think those kinds of skills, right, are exactly what you focus on. How do you create a plan, and creating a plan alleviates stress. And so I think, how do we help caregivers with finances? Well, it's not specifically what you do, but I think it's in first understanding what stress and anxiety is, and that is, it's an emotion and it changes. And if you realize that it's just something that's visiting, and that's something that will pass or shift or change, or that there are certain tools or techniques that you can utilize to not like stuff it down, pretend it's not there, or be like, think whatever it is. In other words, pause for a moment and reflect. How real is this? Right? How is this a life-threatening thing? Because what happens in our nervous system is that your body will tell you that something is threatening when actually it might not be life-threatening, right?
Yes.
And so, but our hormones and our brain response is to respond with a particular chemical that tells the body you're threatened. And so no matter, even if we know, our mind knows that it's not a true threat, our body will still respond that way. So one of the skills that we actually work with is moving back into the body rather than trying to talk our mind out of it, if that makes sense. Would you like to do an example?
Yes, that was my next question. I'm like, can I see what that looks like?
Can you see what it looks like? Okay. So, and so please, if you're listening and watching, do not turn this off if you don't like meditation. Just hang with me. Stay with me for a moment. And if you do love meditation, then all good. But instead of thinking of it like that, that doesn't work for me, right? Instead, just pausing for a moment. So we'll do this together.
Okay.
So however you are, whether you're seated or you're driving, if you're driving, keep your eyes open. Please. If you're right here in the room, the first thing you'll want to do is just to take in your surroundings. So one of the quickest ways to calm the body is to simply notice the surroundings. When we feel safe where we are in our environment, without even telling the body, I'm safe, calm down, just by noticing our surroundings, it automatically brings a sense of ease to our body. And then the second thing you can do is notice something that's peaceful or easeful or even beautiful in your surroundings. So in my office in front of me, you can't see it behind the camera, I have these botanical prints, which have my favorite flower in it. And so whenever I'm feeling that sense within me, I'm curious, what does anxiety feel like to you in your body? What do you notice when you feel anxious?
When I feel anxious, it's just like stress. Your body tenses.
Okay.
You can feel the biological changes. They occur. They're occurring, and you're feeling the stress. You're usually tend to be more frustrated very easily, angered very easily.
Okay. So when you said it in the first sentence, I feel, what is that? Where do you feel it in your body, perhaps?
Sometimes all over.
All over?
So, Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, sometimes it's just like a very, like when you're really stressed and things like that. And it's weird because I've been a caregiver. And so, so it was very much, really, and I thank God I was younger. And so doing it now, I think would be really, really difficult. So it was a little easier. I didn't have time to do anything. I was busy, taking care of grandparents, raising teenagers. I was litigating. I was busy, 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 busy. So it was more difficult. Now I kind of glanced up because I was looking at the pictures in my office. And so my vacation pictures that I took myself, I have one of them of the river that runs through Banff National Park. And so,
Beautiful.
it's right in front of me. It's beautiful. I can still hear the water. You can still hear the water, because it was kind of rushing, that sound. I videotaped it as well. So every now and then if I need it, I just, plug it in and then I took a picture of the beach when I was in Barbados. And it's, for me, it's all about just feeling a sense of calm. And so it makes me, it's like brings me to my happy places, so it kind of gives me a nice sense
So
of calm.
okay. So when you feel calm, where do you feel it in your body? Do you feel your shoulders drop? Do you feel maybe a lightness in your chest?
Yeah, everything just kind of, it almost feels like the weight is lifted off of you. So
that's a beautiful metaphor. So almost like you picked up a heavy coat and just took it off, and then you notice how you feel. So when we tap into what we call a somatic experience, so somatics just means, what do I feel inside? It's another word for interoception. So being able to feel something from the inside out. And when we can notice and equate your happy place, the river, with a sense of lightness, with a sense of taking something heavy off. So stress for you then is wearing something heavy.
Yeah.
There's like a boulder on the shoulders, or a sense of like, can you see how low I'm getting? Right? So when you can begin to, that moment that you can connect the heaviness with the lightness for you, that's when you can flip the breaker switch in your brain.
I found that breathing, I mean, just deep breaths in, deep breaths out lowers my pulse, lowers my blood pressure. Just something as simple as, 5 deep breaths in, 5 deep breaths out has been amazing to shift as well. And so that's always good. And so how do you, because I know how stressful that caregiving is. And so how do you see them, helping them change their focus and things like that, because you're, on the ones that are getting the little quick emails, a day, they've got 10 minutes. So is it something different every day, or is it an underlying theme that kind of runs through everything they're getting every day?
That's a great question. So the one that's on demand, where they're getting something emailed every day, is a different theme. So it could be a mindfulness moment, a specific technique, like what we just talked about, learning. That particular technique is learning a metaphor for understanding sensations in the body. And when you learn, that's something that isn't permanent, that I can create a change, right? Then that's a tool or technique you can use. And so each of these are just different techniques. One of the bonus sessions is with the Santa Fe Botanical Gardens, and she talks about moving out into nature and what you notice and what you observe. If you've ever learned or read about lately the scientific studies, the biophilia effect, just simply looking at nature, like you glancing up and looking at your river, has an immediate hormonal response in our body of oxytocin. And so when we can tap into those little small techniques that are almost instantaneous, how powerful is that? So, and I'm looking at I know you just asked one question, but there's another question on the screen. Did you want me to answer that one?
Go right ahead.
So it says, what do you see as the best way to focus in the limited time we all have? I would say, first of all, what is your relationship to time? If you always have this, and I use the word always, if you think that there is never enough time, then that would be true, right?
Yeah.
You're always going to be scrambling and I can never finish. But what if you just simply reframed your relationship with time, that there is enough time for whatever it is, and whatever gets done, gets done. So reframing and shifting how we define time and how the importance that we put with time is really fascinating. And I think we'll have almost immediate results in the amount of stress versus resiliency that you feel. One of the tips and techniques that, actually two that I do, one is I take care of myself first. So the very first thing in the morning, before I even get out of bed, I actually meditate in bed. I use an app. I use the 10% Happier app, and it's 10 minutes. And I just lie there and I listen to, there's a little bit of a chat and talk, and then there's a meditation. And I'll be honest, sometimes I might drift back to sleep a little bit because I'm really comfortable. But most days it just reframes my day. Instead of immediately thinking I don't have enough time or I've got to do this, instead I've paused and I've done my meditation for the day. And it's a really beautiful way to start. The second thing that I do in the mornings is I either get my coffee and enjoy the nature for a few minutes, rather than getting the coffee and getting on internet, or I go for a walk. And so when I can take care of myself first, because I know the other stuff's going to happen. I'm going to have a meeting. I'm going to have to prepare for the meeting. I have to do all of these things. I have to take care of this, and this, and this. But if I take care of myself first, it's done. And there's no excuses. So, and then it becomes a habit. So I could go on and on.
No, that's me. I get up, I go make coffee because I want that cup of coffee. It just seems to,
it's a
to
ritual.
help.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then it's a matter of walking the dog.
Yeah,
so,
good.
He's way more excited about it than I am. But I mean, it's just it's funny to watch him because you're sitting down and if I go back and sit down and don't get dressed, well then he sits and looks at me. So. So finally you have to get up and go get dressed, and then he's like hopping all over the place, getting ready to go, so, but do you find that, because I know with me, I have a hard time meditating. Mm-hmm. And so do you find that caregivers have a hard time as well, or is that something that with the training, it makes it easier?
Yeah, for sure. I would say even the majority of the caregivers that come to the retreat have never meditated, have never experienced yoga, for example, or walking meditation, or we do something called mantra from memory. So where we'll repeat a phrase and tap our fingers, because by saying a phrase over and over and then utilizing your fingers, you're using two different parts of your brain, and it's impossible to create a to-do list at the same time. Your brain can't task switch quite like that. So it's a way to focus, right? To bring internal focus and a way to calm and create resiliency. I would say that just like anything, meditation doesn't have to be, I'm sitting in a particular position. Like I just said, really vulnerably, I do it in bed. Like I'm comfortable. I have another mentor of mine who she lays down a mat and puts pillows and blankets, and she does her meditation lying down because seated creates a lot of pain for her in her back. So there's a misnomer that a meditation has to look in a particular way. And in my opinion, meditation is if what we want it to do is create a nervous system response, a parasympathetic nervous system, in other words, resting, digesting, a calm sensation, then why would we want to sit in a place of pain to do that?
Yeah, no.
Right. So, and it doesn't have to be a seated meditation. It could be walking in nature. It could be reading your favorite poetry. It could be looking at your photo of the river in Banff. It could be allowing yourself to take a few breaths, and that's it. It doesn't have to be a complicated thing.
I found that I quit watching morning television. Like, I don't turn the television on anymore. The news is, it's just not news anymore. So I thought, so when I stopped doing that, the quiet time in the morning is very nice.
So nice.
Well, it's really good for me that about that hour before the grandkids wake up, because I've got some that live with me. But it's quiet, so you're sitting there, and my coffee has a lot of flavoring in it, so you can just kind of sit and hold that cup of coffee and just be still.
Yeah.
And in the quiet. And I never thought I would appreciate quiet as much as I do now that I've reached maybe this age. I don't know, but I really appreciate quiet. And so not having, just the distractions in the morning seems to make my day better, actually, than since I stopped doing that. Because for the most part, it was just noise in the background, but I'm finding that I don't necessarily need that noise anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That it's actually working better not having it. So that's always really awesome. And so I take it that the retreat that you're going to be doing in Houston is not going to be in Fulshire. Is that correct?
Well, we'll have to wait and see when we cross that path. I'm excited about what we're doing on October 2nd and 3rd. It's online, or you can watch the replay. It's very similar to some of the programs that you're familiar with, that you've been a part of recently in Houston. I think I'm excited about this time because it's been an interesting, I think you said it's affected each one of us differently. Some have taken it as a time to step back and really reframe and reflect on our life. Some of us have taken time to, I'm sure you probably attain a lot of new clients who want to just get their ducks in a row and, kind of figure out what's happening in their life. And then it's just affected each one of us differently. For me, I had a period of where I just have to hit the pause button. So I took some significant time off, and now I feel like I'm in a spurt of creativity. And so we're trying this out and seeing how it goes live and on the replay. And I think that'll help us decide what we do in January in Houston. But in January in Houston, it'll be the last Saturday of the month, whatever we decide to do. And it'll be focused on presenters specifically from the Houston area, maybe a few national presenters. And I think most importantly, what we hope to offer will connect with caregivers in a way that maybe they don't realize that they actually need. I heard Brene Brown talk about this one time. She was talking about art and creativity, and she's like, I don't need that stuff. That was what I did when I was a kid. Like, I'm too busy and too professional for that. Right. But what I really appreciated about what Brene Brown said is because when she started taking time for art and creativity and tapping back into what she used to enjoy, either as a child or a teenager or as a young adult, it helped her remember, that she is a creative person. And by tapping into that creativity, she was a better overall, researcher, a better mother, a better, whatever. And I think sometimes we forget that we don't have to stamp down a part of ourselves. It doesn't make us any less of a caregiver, or any less of a provider, any less of a whatever, by making time for the things that we love. It makes us actually a better and more whole person, I think.
One of the things that I find is that caregivers, they feel guilty for taking time for themselves. Yeah. And so, sometimes you have to kind of talk a little more harsh than you'd like to. that says you have to take care of yourself. You have to stay healthy. You have to rest. You have to do things that you enjoy, because if you don't, you're going to die first, and then what happens?
That's pretty harsh.
Yeah, but sometimes, you can say things very nicely and you can be encouraging, but when you're looking at someone that needs the little bit harder line, sometimes you just have to say, come on, guys, you've got to take care of yourself, so I speak to a lot of caregiver groups because it's a passion of mine, because of my family circumstances, making sure that other people are taking care of themselves, so it's always helpful. So let's talk about the tips that you give caregivers to build this, this resiliency muscle that you talked about, trying to help, to get them in a better pattern. What do you encourage them to do?
There's a couple of resources out there. One that I really appreciate is Maria Shriver, if you're familiar with the women's Alzheimer's movement. She's taken a huge focus on brain health, and one of their partners, Hilarity for Charity, who also partners with us, as a nonprofit and a foundation, and they've shifted a lot of their focus toward brain health. And so they've created 5 pillars of brain health. And you can go under their website, Hilarity for Charity, and to see that. And they've actually recently adopted a board of scientists who each have their own specialty. And I think this is such a critical thing because we talk about pillars of self-care. And in fact, there's a international self-care foundation who has the 7 pillars of self-care, and they're fantastic, actually. And so if you wanted to pop that website up, it's isfglobal.org, and they have 7 pillars of self-care. I think anywhere you go, you're going to find all of these precepts or pillars. But what I would suggest to the caregiver is define what is important to you, because that where your values reside is where you're going to create new habits. So if rather than just saying, well, I'm going to just eat better, then instead think, why do I want to eat better? How do I feel? When you can tap into what you really and truly value. So for me, when I think about nutrition and around nutritional health, which is one pillar, right, for brain health, I'm thinking about my son. Really deep down, one of my values is to set an example for my son. The other thing I value is I don't want to have the signs and symptoms of Alzheimer's or dementia. And that is a really big motivator for me. Just like you said a minute ago about the motivator for a caregiver, if you don't take care of yourself, you'll die first. Well, maybe that is a motivator. And unfortunately, fear sometimes is a motivator. But if we can kind of tap it down to what do we really value? And we actually often, if we can tap into that, that's where we can do it. And it's interesting because I know what we really value is not the news or television or right. And sometimes we use that as a negative escape. But can we shift or reframe to what are those positive activities and those positive things that can help us move toward what we actually really value and appreciate in our life as a pillar. So I cannot recommend that enough. In other words, if one thing that we strive for in our retreats is looking at the entire person, their whole well-being, and that's sleep, nutrition, mental health, or what I would call mental wealth, that's exercise, and those are things, emotional regulation tools that we can utilize that'll actually present a whole and a holistic person. I think I could talk to you all day about that. I was listening to your talk actually to Catherine about what you really present towards your clients, and that's overall quality of life.
Yes, very big proponent of quality of life.
quality of life. So when we look at an end of life care or palliative care, it's all about quality of life. Well, no matter what season or stage of life you're in, whether you're an elder or you're midlife or whatever, shouldn't it be about quality of life? Why would we only want that for our loved one?
Yeah.
It should be for ourselves, right?
Yeah, every client coming in, they're doing planning. So they're already thinking about, okay, well, if I'm doing planning, I might die sometime, so you always try to make it as humorous as possible, because it's not going to happen today, maybe, but not, so,
Right.
we always tell them plan A when you're a married couple is the last check you write bounces, so that kind of thing. Have fun, enjoy life, do everything that you want to do, and don't wait. Because, tomorrow's promised to no one. We want you to have as much fun and do as many things, as you want and create those memories. Have those experiences that when you sit back and you think, wow, my life's been amazing. I've gotten to do all these different things, and to make sure that you don't sit there one day and go, man, I wish I would have done X, Y, or Z. You never want someone to do that. So you encourage them to go out and have fun, and you stay out of trouble, but just have lots and lots and lots of fun. So, so Melissa, well, this has been great. And so I almost, in some aspects, almost wish I was a caregiver again, just so I could come. So,
well, you can come. And in fact, I heard you say that you were, what is the certification that you got recently? The dementia care specialist?
Yeah, I'm a dementia certified practitioner. And so we do training for dementia.
As a dementia certified practitioner, I'm going to highly recommend, even if you're not a caregiver, but if you're in the wellness field, I feel strongly that anyone can benefit from these resiliency skills that we'll be presenting. And it will also help you cultivate, I think, a better understanding. Even though you have a really terrific grasp, it's going to broaden your tool bucket to be able to relate to your clients in a different way. So if your client was, someone who enjoyed, gardening, you can tap into that resource of reminding them, didn't you get a source of joy and pleasure out of that? How can you go back to that? How did that make you feel? And I think that would be a bridge for you to connect with them even better.
I think so as well. And most definitely, because you learn a lot about clients when you're doing planning. So you get to really get to know them. And I like meeting people, so I'm very inquisitive. So it's always good to where to remind them that, hey, this was good. This was something you enjoyed. Maybe you need to go back and do it. And then, if you like gardening and, you've got fresh vegetables and you have plenty, just send them on over, so
I love it.
Motivation to, hey, I could always use some maybe, but definitely just, that's a really good thought. And I appreciate that immensely. And so,
my pleasure.
Yeah, Melissa, it's been great this morning. I appreciate you coming on. And so hopefully that we can encourage more people to get on the Caregiver Wellness Retreat website and join you in October. Can you tell the dates again for us?
Yes. So we have one that's on demand right now. So if you were to go on and log on, you could start the one that's only 10 minutes. And then if you want to sign up for the one that's October 2nd and 3rd, there's a pop-up that will come right up on the screen and will ask you to register. So it's October 2nd and 3rd, or you can just watch them on replay. And you don't have to stay for the whole time. There's actually a way to just simply choose the sessions that you want.
Oh, awesome. And so definitely. All right. Well, thanks a bunch. And
what a delight to meet you. And Kim, I want to say how amazing it is to connect with you as a resource for our caregivers, because I think this is such a critical thing, this planning, and it ties right back into our entire topic. When you plan and then let go of the results, right? It decreases your stress and builds up the resiliency in you.
Good planning gives you options. And so and we always want someone to have options. And so that's why we say get some good planning in place so that you have options, because when you don't plan, you don't have a lot of options at all. And that I think is very terrifying and very I want to say hurtful, but I'm not sure that's the right word. It's very painful for someone when you only have one option, when if you had planned early, we could have given you a lot more. So, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And so, and all right, I'm sure we'll talk again in the future, and you have fun.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Life Happens with Kim Hegwood. Be sure to tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. wherever you listen to your podcast as we navigate through the challenges that emerge as life happens. The content of this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship or constitute attorney-client privilege, legal, medical, financial, or any other professional advice.